Hey everyone, this week I've been driving this new 2020 Toyota Highlander. The Highlander is all new for 2020. It rides on Toyota's new TNGA, or Toyota New Global Architecture platform. It's available with your choice of either a V6 engine or a new 4-cylinder hybrid. Either of those can be had with either front or all-wheel drive. Like the Highlanders that preceded it, it offers 3 rows of seats with seating for either 8 or 7 passengers if you opt for captain's chairs in the second row. This new model introduces some new technology to the Highlander line, which we'll get into here, but altogether it seems to be another competitive entry in the popular 3-row family crossover segment. So let's take a look at the new Highlander. I'll give you a little tour of the exterior, we'll check out the interior, and then I will share with you more of my thoughts on this new vehicle. I wouldn't call the new Highlander's design aggressive or rugged, but it isn't exactly mundane either. Some design elements of note, the A-pillar is blacked out, which kind of gives it a swoopier greenhouse design. You can see that the greenhouse starts thicker up here, it gets narrower as it goes back. Kind of reminds me of the Mitsubishi Outlander a little bit. Along the side here, it's got some haunches toward the rear. You can see how the second door and the rear fender bulge out a little bit here. A little bit of black cladding running down the side, but not too much, actually none along the rocker panels. Up front, nothing too earth-shattering. LED headlights. The grille is this trapezoidal design. There's this winged element on either sides of the Toyota emblem. This is a hybrid model, so it comes with a blue Toyota logo up front here, and then hybrid badging on the side. Personally, I think Toyota could stand to move away from this kind of in-your-face hybrid branding on its hybrid models here, especially given that the hybrid models are quickly becoming the better performing, more appealing option compared to their gas counterparts. You got some silver accents down there, fog lights. This one has roof rails with crossbars installed. This is a fully loaded hybrid platinum model, so it has 20-inch wheels. Around back, Highlander badging on the left side of the tailgate there, platinum badging on the bottom right, and then there's this hybrid badge kind of stuck here. Looks a little bit out of place, looks a little bit forced. One cool feature that this one has is a foot-activated tailgate. There we go. Got it on the first try. So there's your power tailgate. The button to open and close it is located right here. I've got the third row seat in place, so you can see how much space remains when the third row is up. Not bad, decent amount. The third row has these little Velcro straps for putting it up, so when you're not using them, you can just stick them there, or actually stick them anywhere. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but it's kind of nice. Just put them there, and there you go. So to put the third row down, push that forward, headrest falls down, and there you go. We'll do that again over here. A little bit jerky, you gotta keep the lever extended the whole way. Headrest falls down when it's about 30% closed. Once that's down, there is a lot of room in this thing. I used it to transport my mountain bike back from the bike shop the other day. I did have the second row captain's chairs down as well, but either way, plenty of room in the back of the Highlander. Other highlights in the cargo area include this 3-prong 120 volt AC power outlet back here. You can see that there are mounting points in place for a cargo cover, although this one doesn't have the cargo cover. Cup holders back here, so 4 cup holders in total for the third row seats. Let's take a look at whatever this is. Little access point. Not sure what's exactly in there, but there's this little cover behind this seat belt with an access point. On the other side, another cover with a fuse box behind it, a couple tie downs. Yeah, about what you'd expect from the third row of a mid-sized family crossover. Okay, climbing behind the driver's seat, and we'll turn it on. So you don't hear an engine starting up there because this is a hybrid model. But now I can show you really my favorite thing about the new Highlander and about new Toyotas in general, and that is this interior design. It just works. Everything works really well, at least for me. So one of the first things you'll notice is a storage shelf along the center stack and in front of the passenger seat. So plenty of room right here. You could fit a phone, wallet, sunglasses, multiple phones, multiple wallets, your keys. Plenty of things would fit in place here as they would in front of the passenger here. There's a new 12.5-inch infotainment screen that really addresses probably my biggest frustration with modern Toyota products, and that is the infotainment experience. You'll notice that this is a sharp new infotainment screen. The software I find to be more intuitive, a little easier to use. So you can see you've got climate control options here on the left, and then audio, phone connection, navigation map. This thing has Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, so it's really nice to see Toyota adding that into their vehicles, given that they were kind of one of the last holdouts with regard to Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. Touchscreen functionality here, lots of configurability, and then there are 4 buttons down here for controlling this system. So you got home, menu, audio, and map. I'll cycle through some of them. So home is just this screen here. It kind of is like a control panel. Menu gives you different options for audio, phone, setup. If you had a phone plugged in to this USB port down here, you would have your Apple CarPlay or Android Auto option along this screen as well. We've got audio, so this brings up your different audio options, and if the audio was turned on, you'd have your Sirius XM or your radio screen here, and then map for your navigation. Like I said, pretty sharp. It's a nice interface. It uses good colors. Overall, I think the design is pretty good, and it really is a big improvement for Toyota, given that they'd kind of been lagging behind with regard to infotainment for a while now. Moving on, there's a nice big screen in the middle of the gauges here. Like other Toyota hybrid models, this gauge shows your state of charge and your power usage, whereas this gauge is just a traditional speedometer. Moving over to the door panel here, we've got a brown and tan two-tone interior with this gray imitation wood trim. So kind of a unique interior color palette here, but it all works pretty well. On top of the door panel here, this is a mild soft touch material, we'll call it, probably vinyl, not really cushy, but not hard plastic either. This is that plasticky wood trim. Doesn't look so bad, a little shiny for my tastes. And then this is likely imitation leather right here, but either way it feels pretty good. There's real stitching in it. The armrest here is somewhat padded, not the cushiest armrest I've ever felt, but the contour is nice. You can get your elbow in there. Switchgear, like in all Toyota products, is really good. You know it's going to last. Along here, you've got buttons for the automatic high beams, the 360-degree camera system, which I can show here. So this is now giving us a 360-degree view of the outside of the vehicle. Spun around for a little while there. So I'm not sure how useful this would really be. It does give you a pretty good view of what's around the vehicle. I just don't know that you'd be able to access this view quickly enough. And it doesn't really behave like I'd expect it to. This is still a little bit frustrating to use. I just discovered one cool thing. If you click on that little settings button, you can choose the color of the Highlander that's used in that view. So I don't know if these are all colors that are available on the exterior of the Highlander, but you've got bright blue. There's this peach color, and then 4 choices through here: red, gray, silver, white. 6 different colors to choose from. If you have a black Highlander, I guess you're out of luck. Moving on. Here's your steering wheel. You've got controls for the screen in the middle of the gauge cluster. You've also got some controls for the audio system, voice commands, and then for some of your active safety features, you've got automatic emergency braking here and lane keep assist right here. Traditional gear shift lever on this thing. A lot of competitors are going to a push button gear selector, but Highlander sticks with a traditional design. Different drive modes back here. Here's some other controls. This one turns off stability control. This one turns on EV mode, and then this is a trail mode for the all-wheel drive system. Electronic parking brake with hold feature. Cup holders here. I've got the window sticker over on the seat, so you'll notice this is a 2020 Highlander Hybrid Platinum all-wheel drive. Color is Ruby Flare Pearl. It's built in Princeton, Indiana. Fuel economy is exceptional for the hybrid. This one returns 35 miles per gallon in the city, 34 miles per gallon on the highway, and 35 miles per gallon combined, which is pretty awesome. That hybrid pairs a 2.5-liter 4-cylinder engine with a hybrid motor. This one has all-wheel drive, 20-inch wheels, completely loaded, so everything you get here is everything you can get with a Highlander. And that all comes in at a total MSRP, including destination fees, of $52,512. Seating surfaces are pretty nice. You can see the perforations form this diamond pattern, and you've got multiple different pieces of material used in each seat. This is a novel item right here. So this is your center console storage box, but this guy, I wasn't expecting it when I opened it for the first time, but you pull back on it and the lid disappears into the back of the box here. So I'll do that again. I imagine it rolls up. But yeah, kind of a clever feature. Here's your wireless charging pad. Beneath that is a center console storage box with a 12-volt power outlet. Not much else to see right there. A couple more things that are specific to this Platinum model. You get a digital rear view mirror. So right now it's in, we'll call it normal mode. Then you flip this switch and it uses the feed from the backup camera to give you a digital look outside the back of the vehicle. So in normal mode, you have to contend with the seat backs and all the interior of the vehicle. You don't really have that big of a viewing area out the back. Flip it into digital and you've got a much wider view. And then one more thing unique to the Platinum model is this heads-up display. It's pretty big actually, and that can come in handy at night. Keeps you from having to take your eyes off the road. I think that about does it for the front seating area. Let's hop in the back. Okay, climbing into the Highlander's second row, we'll make sure that the seat is all the way back. You do that via these controls right here. So with the seat in its all the way back position, plenty of legroom up here. Loads of space actually. I can stretch my legs fairly comfortably. There's a little bit of a hump in the second row here, so not totally flat, but not too bad. Like I said, this is a loaded Platinum model, so you've got captain's chairs back here. This cup holder is kind of odd right here because climbing in the back seat is a little bit tricky with that right there, although I'm sure it's made to be stepped on given that this is a family vehicle. And then it's brown plastic, which is kind of unique too. Other things in the second row, you've got heated second row captain's chairs, some HVAC controls for the second row passengers, and then down here you've got a 120 volt AC power adapter and 2 USB ports. These are just USB-A. Toyota hasn't yet begun incorporating USB-C into its vehicles. I'd like to see that, given that USB-C is kind of the new standard. Another thing, you can tell you're in a family SUV when it has these window shades. So it's nice to block the sun, especially if you have little kids. Big panoramic sunroof in this thing. We can open that up. So it extends all the way over the second row seats. Lets a lot of light in actually. That cover goes almost all the way back. And then all one-touch operation. Panel moves back pretty far, so you've got a decent sized opening right here. There we go. So the shade closes halfway, and then the sunroof closes, and if you want the shade to close the rest of the way, So I think that covers the second row. Let's put up the back seats and take a look back there. So pretty easy. I just did it with my hand here. Didn't need to use any controls or anything. So the third row is split 60-40, but what's kind of interesting is that only the seat backs move. The third row seat bottom is actually all one piece, and it stays in the exact same position whether the third row seat backs are folded flat or whether they're up. Let's hop back here and I'll show you how much room there is without the captain's chairs slid forward at all, and then we can take a look at how much there is once they're moved forward. So yeah, not a ton of space back here, not nearly as tight as the RX350 L. In that vehicle, there's literally no space for your feet. In this one, you got a little bit of room back here. Wouldn't be too bad with little kids, but a full-grown adult would not be very comfortable back here for very long. Let's move one of the captain's chairs forward, and we can see how much space there can be if your second row passengers are willing to give up a little bit of their legroom. And with that seat forward a little bit more space. You can move this one up a little further, but by that point, it's getting pretty tight in the second row. So it's a trade-off. Not the biggest third row I've been in. Suitable for little kids, especially if your second and third row passengers are all kids. Then the second row can give up a little bit of room so that the third row can have some more legroom. But 6 full-grown adults might be a little bit tight in here. So not the biggest third row in the new Highlander. If I recall, the Honda Pilot and the Kia Telluride both had slightly larger third rows. So keep that in mind. I think if your second and third row passengers were kids, you'd have no problems. If your second row passengers were adults and your third row passengers were little kids, I still don't think you'd have any problems. It's when all 6 passengers in the vehicle or 7 passengers in the vehicle are adults, then I think it will be pretty tight in here. The second row has to give up a little legroom in order for the third row to have enough room for adults, and at that point, it's getting a little bit tight. Okay, I'm gonna do my best to climb out of here. Yeah, this cup holder in between the captain's chairs here definitely has to be designed to be stepped on because there's really no way to get out without stepping on it. Let's hop back in the front seat and I will share more of my thoughts about the new Highlander. All right, so to wrap up the new 2020 Toyota Highlander, what really stands out to me about this vehicle is the hybrid powertrain. It gets 35 miles per gallon combined, and it only costs $1,400 more than the non-hybrid version. The non-hybrid Highlander gets a 3.5-liter V6 that makes 295 horsepower. This vehicle uses a 4-cylinder paired with a hybrid component for a total output of 243 horsepower. I've been driving it all week. I've put about 75 miles on it, and I can't say that I've ever wanted more power out of this thing. And given how incredible the fuel economy is and that relatively small price premium to get into the hybrid model, I would go for the hybrid version every time. I think the payback period would be pretty quick depending on how much you drive, but regardless, I think it would be pretty quick for most people. And overall, it's a nice experience. You get that hybrid propulsion at lower speeds, which is nice. You turn the car on and it's pretty much totally silent, which is nice. Like I'm sitting here with the car on and the engine's not running or anything. So that's nice. You're not really idling with the engine running if you're just sitting there in the vehicle with it turned on. So those are all considerations to make with a hybrid. Yes, they return better fuel economy, but they also have benefits like the fact that I'm sitting here. I live in Salt Lake City and we have really bad air quality issues, and I'm able to sit here with the car running and not exactly be idling and putting out emissions. So yeah, hybrid proposition is great. I love that. Beyond that, it's a completely competent, modern, mid-size family crossover. Like I demonstrated, the third row isn't cavernous, but if you have small kids, it'll do the trick. The second row captain's chairs are pretty spacious and they move forward, so you can trade a little bit of second row legroom for some extra third row legroom. This being the fully loaded hybrid platinum model, Costs $52,500, but it comes with a massive panoramic sunroof. It has really nice wheels, has some nice curb appeal. You get a large heads-up display, JBL sound system, 12.5-inch infotainment screen, wireless phone charging. So altogether, pretty well-rounded offering. Nothing earth-shattering aside from the whole hybrid value proposition, which is pretty good. Nothing earth-shattering. I love the shelves in the dashboard. I think those are super clever and something that I would use on a day-to-day basis. Beyond that, the value proposition is still in large part in the long-term reliability that you get with Toyotas. But hey, you can't really argue with that, and I think for anyone looking for a mid-size family crossover, the new Highlander is absolutely worth a look. It's not quite as flashy as something like the Kia Telluride. That vehicle, I think, is a little bit more exciting. It appeals a little bit more to emotions. Then on the opposite end of the spectrum, you've got the Honda Pilot, which is very minivan-like without actually being a minivan. So if you're someone who thinks maybe a minivan would be right for them, but doesn't want a minivan, the Honda Pilot is pretty compelling, and I'm not sure the exact dimensions, but it just felt a little bit bigger inside than this vehicle. Pilot's a few years old now, but it's still extremely competitive, and I'd give it a really close look if I were in the market for a vehicle like this. But either way, it's a really competitive segment. Unfortunately, I've not driven every vehicle in this segment. Really, as long as you choose a vehicle in this segment that's been redesigned in the past few years, and that would include this vehicle, the Highlander, Kia Telluride, Hyundai Palisade, Subaru Ascent, Volkswagen Atlas, Ford Explorer. Like I said, the Honda Pilot is still exceptional. Mazda CX-9 is really nice on the inside too. A lot of good vehicles to choose from in this segment. There's no reason to think that the Highlander isn't at or near the top of the segment. It just comes down to which of all these offerings makes the most sense for you. So with that, I think the new Highlander is, like I said, extremely competitive vehicle in an extremely competitive vehicle segment. And just one other thing here, a vehicle that comes to mind as I go through this Highlander is the Lexus RX350 L. That is the elongated version of the regular RX. It has a third row, but the third row is so small that it's really not usable by anybody with legs. And then it has a little bit more cargo space, but like not really. It's, I think, 4 inches longer than the regular RX. So to anybody considering that vehicle, I would recommend they look at this new Highlander. The Highlander is all new. The RX has been on sale for a few years now. It did just receive a mid-cycle update, but it's still starting to feel a little bit dated. Whereas the Highlander, on the other hand, all new, totally new design. As you can tell, looking at this interior, it's really nice, especially in its upper trim levels. You can get it with pretty much all the features available on the RX350L. And it comes with more space, especially in that third row. So to anyone considering the RX350L, I think the new Highlander is the vehicle you actually want. Thank you for watching.